Hey guys, it's Marie from Asian Boss. Because of all the lockdowns in many parts of the world that are still in place, you may have noticed a significant drop in the level of air pollution where you live. It's not a coincidence, and it's happening in major cities around the world as we speak. Nowhere else was this more noticeable than in New Delhi, India, which recorded 60% fall in air pollution since the beginning of the lockdown compared to its 2019 level. To have these questions answered, we invited Anumita Roychowdhury, a leading environmental expert from India, and executive director at the Center for Science and Environment, to tell us everything there's to know about air pollution. If you ever wanted to understand the science behind air pollution, you're in for a real treat. Let's get right to it. Thank you for having this chat with us today. The reason why we wanted to interview you today is because we understand you are a leading environmental scientist in India, and we just had a lot of questions about the level of pollution in India and how it went down because of the coronavirus. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your expertise?
I'm really delighted to be here today and to discuss this with you. I'm Anumita Roychowdhury, Executive Director at the Center for Science and Environment, India, and in charge of research and advocacy. We've been working on air pollution issues now for over 20 years, and I'm very happy to be part of this institution, which is one of the most prominent organizations in the country working on environmental issues.
What is it that this organization does exactly?
The primary role that we play is that how do you bring research, advocacy, campaign, and awareness building, but backed by strong science and scientific narrative to push for policy solution to environmental problems. Some of the biggest changes that have happened in one of the most polluted cities like Delhi, where we have been able to very successfully push for improvement in emission standards of vehicles, change the fuel quality, establish one of the largest natural gas vehicle program to be able to control air pollution.
From what we know, India is one of the most polluted countries in the entire world. In terms of worldwide ranking, where does India stand currently?
Today, in India, nearly 90% of the people do not have air quality which is acceptable by the WHO. 13 among 20 most polluted cities in the world are in India today.
What do statistics say about health problems or even death rates caused by pollution?
According to World Health Organization's estimates, about 4.6 million deaths occur globally due to air pollution-related diseases. So that clearly shows that air pollution is a global health crisis. The global burden of disease estimates in India, about 1.2 million people die prematurely every year due to air pollution-related diseases in this country. Now, when we looked at the WHO's database, it also showed that the children who are below 5 years, their death due to air pollution-related diseases is also highest in India. And there are several more interesting studies and quite worrying and scary studies that have come up recently that show that in a city like Delhi today, every third child has impaired lungs. And the children who are growing up in polluted environment, they are growing up with smaller lungs that are smaller than children who are growing up in a more healthy environment. Perhaps the impact of COVID-19 is higher in regions where air pollution levels are already very high. Because of our long-term exposure to air pollution, our lungs are already weak. Now, if our lungs are chronically weak already because of our long-term exposure to air pollution, then we are not in a position to fight the virus. And therefore, the impact of the pandemic is actually high in areas where air pollution levels are also high. In fact, that's a global assessment is showing that more people die because of air pollution-related diseases than those dying from malaria, HIV, and these other diseases put together. Today, they even give you the breakup of the diseases that are affected by air pollution and causing the death. So in India, for instance, half of the deaths that we report because of air pollution related diseases are because of ischemic heart disease, followed by stroke, and then the respiratory diseases and cancer. So this is the breakup of the different kinds of diseases which are aggravated and influenced by air pollution and that are causing these deaths. So this only brings out that why we really need to be on a war path to deal with air pollution now.
Right now we're hearing from all over the world how the air quality improves even in cities that are highly polluted, even so that you can see clear skies. But how much did the air quality actually improve in India due to the lockdown?
Because of the pandemic, the COVID-19, India right now is going through a complete lockdown situation. So entire country has been locked down. We cannot step out of the house anymore. And as a result of that, there are no vehicles on the road. All factories have shut. Construction activities are not there anymore, right? People are not burning garbage to that extent, okay? So almost everything has come to a standstill. You must have seen these NASA satellite pictures and how they're imaging the change in air quality during the pandemic. This imaging has been done over China, over Europe, and we have seen how the change has happened over a period of time. For instance, in Delhi, and even what the Central Pollution Control Board in India has informed, it's showing that after the lockdown period has started, the levels have dropped by almost half to 60% compared to the pre-lockdown days. And when I'm looking around in Delhi, I mean, it's unimaginable how crisp and clean the air is, how blue the sky is. What it's telling us that the moment human beings are retreating, okay, how quickly the nature is also healing itself.
Why is the air pollution in India so bad in the first place?
We have to understand that India, like any other developing country, they are in that stage of economic growth. And when they are growing economically, our ability to invest in the pollution control and do the right air quality management, and for that, the kind of institutional preparedness that is needed in the country is still weak. Per capita consumption of resources in India is much lower than that of the developed world. But within India, you will still find that the consumption of small segment of people has huge footprint and huge impact. But the bigger challenge in India is also because of the poverty and because of the informality of the economy, small scale, medium scale. Now, these economic enterprises do not have the right kind of resource support to implement in pollution control adequately.
So in order to understand what all these statistics mean, I think we have to go back to the basics to really understand. So could you explain to us what exactly is air pollution and what causes air pollution?
Okay. Air pollution is a mixture of dust and gases, different gases. They come from, as primary emission, from different sources: industry, power plant, vehicles, construction, etc. And then once they're out in the air, gases again react with each other to form new gases or to form new particles. And all of these add to the overall air pollution load in the city. So air pollution happens for two reasons, actually. If you're burning anything that you burn or combust, whatever comes out of that burning, okay, causes pollution. Now, what are you burning? You are burning fuel in industry, in power plant, in your vehicles, and when you are burning the garbage. So if you are driving your vehicle, then from the tailpipe of your vehicle, emissions are going to come. If you are manufacturing, the stack of the industry will emit. from the power plant, again, the stack emissions will be responsible. But there is another kind of pollution. That is, once all these pollutants and gases, they come out in the air, then in the air, many chemicals and these gases, they again react with each other and they form a new pollutant altogether. And those new pollutants are called secondary pollutants. And one of the prominent gas that happens because of that reaction in the air is called the ozone. So ozone is an extremely harmful gas. But you need to keep in mind there's a difference between the ozone that we breathe, that is within our breathing zone, and the ozone that is up in the ozone layer. That is a different thing altogether. So ozone layer is good for us because ozone layer is a blanket that is protecting us from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. But if that ozone gas is close to our nose within our breathing zone, then it is extremely harmful for our health. Now, if you want to control ozone in your breathing zone, then you need to control the primary emissions of gases from your vehicles and from your industry, like nitrogen oxide, volatile organic compounds, hydrocarbons, the whole range of these gases. So these gases will have to be controlled. If you're looking at, say, for instance, particles coming out from the diesel exhaust of your car, we are told that the diesel exhaust has got 40 different chemical substances that are hugely toxic. And some of the key chemicals that they talk about are the group of what they call technical scientific term, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These are group of hydrocarbons which are highly toxic, and these are the ones that influence the carcinogenicity or the cancer-causing potential. So WHO has classified diesel emissions as class 1 carcinogen, which is the same category where you have tobacco smoking and asbestos, and for a strong link with lung cancer. So it's a highly toxic emissions that you get from diesel engine.
Are the biggest contributors to air pollution the same in every country? Are there any differences in different countries?
Let me take the example of a coal power plant. So if there's a coal power plant, then from the stack, the chimney of the coal power plant, the emissions that are coming out, untreated emissions, from the coal, you will have huge amount of sulfur dioxide. It will also have nitrogen oxide. It will have a range of particles. And then it's also going to have, particularly because you're burning coal, it's going to have a high amount of very toxic mercury. And mercury is a deadly toxin. It's a carcinogen. So that is the kind of profile you will get in the vicinity of that coal power plant. But for us, open burning of garbage is also a very big problem. But in the developed world, like if you're in the US or if you are in Europe, then the municipal governance in this country are already so strong that there normally people are not going to burn garbage in the open.
So people always hear that air pollution is so bad and is particularly harmful for the environment, but we're not sure if most people understand how it actually impacts the human body and why is air pollution so harmful to the human body.
When you are inhaling extremely tiny particles mixed with all these toxins, they go very deep inside your lungs. Our human nostril is designed to filter out some of the bigger dust particles, which it does quite efficiently. But the tiniest fraction, which you cannot see with your eye, they can penetrate that filter. And they can go very deep inside your lung, and they can break through the blood barrier that we have and get mixed with the bloodstream. Now, once all these toxins are in your bloodstream, then it's going all over your body and it is affecting each and every organ of your body. So while the lungs are the first vulnerable lungs, and your lungs get affected, but along with lungs, your heart is getting affected. Today, in fact, over the last 2 years, several studies have come out that show that almost each and every part of your body is affected by air pollution, from brain to heart to your pancreas. Now, earlier, traditionally, we only associated these pollutants with only respiratory disease and to some extent with the heart disease. But now, hypertension, diabetes, the low birth weight of children, small affecting the neurons, your brain, right, the brain size. All these are getting associated with air pollution and, of course, whole range of cancer. So, if you want to understand the impact, air pollution has short-term and long-term impact. The short-term impact is like today, if in my city, pollution levels go up suddenly and I'm in a smog episode, then those who are already vulnerable, those who already have chronic lung disease, respiratory condition, asthma, or heart condition, their symptoms can get aggravated immediately, and that will increase the emergency hospital admission. But if you are in a polluted environment for a long period of time, even if you are a healthy person, but a long-term impact, and with aging, as we age, as we get older, the air pollution, lot of latent risk of air pollution begin to show up at a later stage of our lives. And that is related to our heart disease, stroke, and different kind of cancers and host of metabolic diseases. One famous heart surgeon in Delhi, he told us that when I do open heart surgery, just by looking at the color of the lung, I can say whether the patient is from Delhi or outside. And he had shared with us the pictures of those lungs. And you'll be amazed, it had black patches on the lung. And this was not due to smoking, because this was a non-smoker patient. But this black patch that we could see visibly, the whole black color on the lung, that happens because for a long period of time, when you're exposed to high pollution levels, this kind of deposition happens on the lungs. And this is the toxic substance that is getting deposited in your lungs. And that triggers all kinds of health problems. So that's the reason why today particles are monitored in terms of their size. Today you are talking about particulate matter of 10 micron size, 2.5 micron size, 1 micron, even ultrafine. And the ultrafine particles today are now the focus of the new scientific investigation, that how do we deal with them? So that's how it explains that why the size matters so much in the case of particles.
How small do they actually get? Let's say compare it to like a hair. How small are these particles?
Diameter of that one human hair is 50 micron, okay? But what our air quality regulators today are monitoring in the air is 2.5 micron. But you have particles even smaller than 2.5 micron. In fact, if you take the exhaust fume that comes from a diesel engine, then almost more than 90% of the particles in the diesel exhaust is less than 1 micron size, as tiny as that. And then the scientists today are talking about a size which is less than 1 micron, and that is called the ultrafine particles. And that is completely a new genre. We have not even understood the ultrafine particles that well so far.
But if it's this harmful and maybe even deadly, then why do you think people don't have that information?
We really have to build a lot more science in the public domain. People do not have easy access to scientific information. A lot of scientific studies are happening today, but not much effort is being made to filter that scientific information in a way that the lay people can understand and appreciate. And so, in fact, it's quite interesting that only now in India, we are beginning to see that the middle class, they are beginning to react to air pollution issues. And because now they have a lot more access to information, often people get into a denial mode. I mean, so much has been said about the harmful impact of smoking, and yet people smoke. To have access to information and to be aware of the information are two different things. You may have access to information, but you may not have absorbed it enough to be aware and change your behavior. And that's where we have to do that last mile, to make that connection in people's mind.
What is the largest lesson we could learn about the pollution through seeing how COVID-19 actually has impacted it?
There are a few certainly very big lessons from the COVID experience. One, it has shown us with evidence that the scale of action has to be strong, effective, and at a huge scale. Small action in micro places doesn't help. The pandemic has shown that because currently the entire action has been taken across the country, uniformly, that's something is important. So going forward, whatever solution that India will be looking at will have to be implemented at a scale. Second, we will have to recognize that if 1.2 million people are dying because of air pollution related diseases every year, then it is like an emergency as we have seen during the COVID. And we have to treat air pollution also as a health emergency. And therefore, that has to drive action and bring a lot more leapfrog solution. And the other big lesson that we have got from the COVID is that now people have understood what it takes to clean up the air. And this should build public awareness and build public support for all the difficult action that we'll have to take in the future. In the past, often we found that if government is trying to push for a solution, there would be a lot of pushback to that solution. There will be protest, there will be lobby pressure. Some people do not accept those solutions, but now no more. Now people will have to understand that if we want to sustain the clean air quality that we're experiencing today, then we will have to support difficult solutions. Inconvenience is not an excuse to block difficult solution.
Like, who should take action in order to bring the biggest change? Is it, for example, the government? Is it through regulations? Is it people, average people who can make a difference? Like, who has the big, or companies, who has the biggest power in order to actually make the difference?
Many actors are involved in this. So at one level, government will have to ensure that we have the right policies, right regulations, and there is a strong and stringent implementation of the policies. At the public level, we'll have to ensure that we understand those solutions and we support those solutions.
I can imagine that companies just want to go the easy route and just do everything that's done before, and the air pollution will just be as bad as before.
So today in Delhi, a person has to pay an environment tax if they buy a diesel car. Now what we are finding, that many automobile companies, they have now starting to reduce their diesel car production. In fact, some prominent companies are moving away from diesel car production. Now, this shows that if the industry does not pay attention to the environmental risk, to the health risk, and do not internalize the sustainability criteria, this can also be a business risk for them. So I think this understanding is growing, but we will also have to, as environmental actors, as community, we will also have to deepen and work on that awareness level so that we can ensure that the post-pandemic, it is truly a new normal.
What can an average person do to contribute to a healthier planet and to improve the air quality overall?
A lot of personal decisions and personal steps that we can take that will contribute hugely to a healthier planet. So let's look at some of those simple steps that we can take in our daily lives. So if we have to go out for our daily requirement, let us not take our car out. Try and walk and cycle as much as you can. If you have to go longer distances, use public transport. Minimize the use of your personal car. Do not use it if it's possible at all. The other thing that we can do sitting at home, the way we use our electricity. Every time when you do not require the light, just switch it off. Also, keep in mind that there are some appliances, take television for instance. Often we keep our television on a standby mode. We do not completely switch off the television when we are not watching it. But not many people know that the television uses up electricity when it is on a standby mode. The other side that you can do is with your domestic waste, because if you can reduce the waste at your level, then you will not load your municipality with too much waste that will eventually get burnt and will contribute to air pollution. So what can you do with your waste? Segregate your waste at home, and the organic waste that comes from your kitchen, make compost out of it and do lovely gardens with it. So that means your kitchen waste does not have to go out at all. In fact, the bigger houses in India we have seen where they are also using their organic waste and using small biogas digesters. And with that, they are generating biogas for their household consumption. So from the same kitchen waste, you are generating biogas, and the same gas is coming back to your kitchen for cooking. So these are the whole range of action that is possible that you can do.
Right now, there might be people from all over the world watching this video. Lastly, do you have any message that you want to let them know?
The simple message is that we need to be hopeful. That I know these are very difficult times, that this pandemic, even though it is allowing the nature to heal, but this healing is also happening at a huge human distress and at huge economic dislocation. But at the same time, I would say that there is still so much hope, and that we have to look at the opportunity that the pandemic is pointing towards. And if we can build on those opportunities in the post-pandemic era, and then we will certainly be able to build a better world for ourselves. And the science will really have to drive that change. And all of us, if we understand that well, then we can all be part or be the partners in that change.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot.
Thank you.